Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Down the back? Can everybody understand me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Alan Murray. This is my wife, Janette Wakeman. We're just honoured to be here tonight, and so grateful that everyone has turned out in this lovely evening. Janette and I have been married for about 43 years, so we're sort of working things out. And what happened about 3 years ago, we had this vision that we could run around Australia. And just going back about 12 years ago, we ran the length of New Zealand. And we thought that was quite an amazing feat at the time. It was 50 marathons in 50 days. We covered about 2,200 kilometres. We never thought we'd do anything bigger than that, but when we came to live here in Australia, we thought, well, here we are, let's give this a go. So we left Melbourne on the 1st of January. We've arrived here. We've done 1,366 kilometres so far. And yesterday we were 1/12 of the way. So that seems like quite a lot to me. We've endured quite a few things. We had some 44-degree temperatures running up the Clyde from Bateman's Bay. That was a real challenge. We had the tail end of the cyclone 2 or 3 days ago, where we ran 2 days in just pouring rain. But we seemed to survive all that, and the rest of the days have been either sort of dry and windy or reasonably hot. So just to give you a bit about our background, Jeanette will tell you more, but we've been on a raw food diet for over 10 years. Leading up to that for about a year, we were transitioning, but we've been 100% raw for 10 years now. And we've never felt better and never felt fitter. We only eat raw foods. We don't have any supplements. We don't take any pills, anything. We just eat raw food. About 80% of our diet comes from raw fruit and vegetables, mainly raw fruit, because raw fruit digests so easily and we can run on that. Some people, we've been asked a few questions ever since we left, and the biggest question, or the most often asked, is why do we want to do this? And there had been honestly a couple of days when we asked ourselves actually what we were doing out here. But really we just want to raise a lot of awareness for the raw food movement. Back in Melbourne we did raw food classes and workshops and all sorts of things. But really we're only sort of getting a small percent of the population. And we figure if we can run around Australia and do it well just on raw food, there's really not a lot of questions to ask. I mean, people ask us every day, where do you get your protein? Well, if we're able to run around Australia just eating fruit and a few greens, we don't really have to ask that question anymore. Another reason we are doing this is we want to inspire people. And a couple of weeks ago we were doing a radio program on some national radio station. And the next morning we were just running through some small town, and this lady came up in a car, a lady and her husband. She was just a young lady, but she was quite overweight. And she ran up to us and she opened the door and ran up to us and put her arms around us. We'd never seen her before. And she said, "Thank you very much. You've inspired me to go for a run." She'd never run in her life before, and she was really quite overweight. And her husband reached over and he said, "Yes, I had an apple this morning." So, there's just two people that I'm sure that we may have touched, and that makes the whole thing worthwhile. I think anyone here who has doubts whether you can live well on a raw food, plant-based diet, you should stop worrying and just start eating raw food and green vegetables. I have a a couple of friends in the raw food movement. It's actually becoming quite a big movement. And last year we went to a raw food festival in Woodstock, America. And two of our very good friends were there. We knew them before. And Janette and I spoke 2 or 3 times at this festival. It was like a 6-day festival. But two of the most important people that I met there, good friends of ours, the first one was Dr. Douglas Graham. He's written a book called the 80-10-10 diet. Now 80-10-10, and his idea is of all your food, 80% of your food will come from carbohydrates, 10% of your food will come from fats, and 10% will come from protein. And in his case, that's what he does, but 80% of his diet is fruit, and the other 20% is vegetables and nuts and seeds. Doug Graham is an amazing person. He's adapted the mono raw food diet, so most days he only eats 3 things on a diet. So in the morning he might wake up and have 10, 15 bananas. For lunch he might have a whole watermelon, which by the way, that is a whole watermelon, skin, seeds and flesh. And for dinner he might just have a couple of cos lettuce or something like that, and that's his diet for the day. The next day might be different. He might have 15 mangoes for breakfast and 2 pineapples for lunch, something like that. But this fellow, who's almost the same age as me, when he does, he's a very fit person, and he does bodybuilding and strength exercises. So when he does chin-ups, like when I'll be struggling to get the bar to here, he brings the bar right to there. When he does push-ups, I'd love to do some, but couldn't do what he does. His feet are out there, his hands are out there, stretched fully out. You can still do 10 or 15 push-ups like that. He's an amazing fellow, and if anyone has ever heard about him or would like to read his book, Dr. Douglas Graham, his website is Food and Sport, food with an M, sport.com. There's another very good friend of ours who's mainly called the Fruitarian. He actually has a tattooed on his chest, he's the Fruitarian. He only eats fruit. He's just a small guy, about smaller than me, he's probably short. He's an extreme athlete. So about 2 months ago, he had a bit of a running streak. And the first thing he did was to run the Death Valley endurance race. If anyone doesn't know, it's held in the Arizona desert. They start off below sea level, where the temperature can be freezing. But during the middle of the day, the temperature gets up to 50 degrees. 50. They start off below sea level, they get up to 1,000, just over 1,000 metres. And it's a race you have to do by yourself. You can push a cart with water on it, but you have to do the whole thing by yourself. He did this race about 2 months ago. He was in 8th place, and he was quite happy with that, because he'd never done it before. But the next weekend, like most people do that, and that's all they do for the year. The next weekend, he ran the Leadville 100. It's a 100-miler, in other words, 160 kilometres, or like 4 marathons back to back. He did that. It's hills and valleys, and it's very rough underfoot. He did that, and he came in 1st place. This is just a week after he'd done the Arizona one. The next weekend, he decided to do a marathon. And he ran a marathon in New York, not the New York Marathon, but one of the outer suburbs. Sort of had a very big field. He came in 1st overall, and the time of about 2.5 hours.
Name?
His name is Mike Armstead, the Fruitarian, if you ever want to look him up on the internet. So this is 3 things in 3 weekends. But that wasn't enough for this fellow. He was about 40 years old. So the next weekend he entered a 24-hour track race. They raced round and round and round the track for 24 hours. He managed to clock up 240 kilometres. That's an average speed of 10 kilometres an hour. And he had the highest amount of mileage, kilometres, for that race. So all this is in the space of a month. And then he wrote on that website that he'd given up running for a while. But I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. Now this young guy, or young compared to us, he only eats fruit, but he eats massive amounts of good quality, organic fresh, juicy, ripe fruit. That's his whole diet. He may have a green smoothie now and again if he feels like some extra greens, but this is his diet. And just to look at him, you can see sort of a glow coming off this fellow. So, I don't have much more to say, besides that we've done it for 10 years. Say, well, I can't do raw food because I've got a different blood group or something. Well, Janette and I are completely opposite blood groups. O positive and AB negative. But we eat exactly the same food. There's no difference in our food. And people say, well, I can't be a raw vegan because I have to have lots of extra protein or calcium or B12. Well, we stopped worrying about B12 and calcium and the other things many years ago. And we together have not had a day's sickness in the last 10 years. We haven't been to a doctor, a pharmacy, a hospital, a dentist. We just haven't. And I think if we were lacking in any of these things, we don't do blood tests, we don't do regular checkups, but I think we would know if we were lacking in these things by now. So if we can do it, anybody can. Thanks.
Come out and be here for yourselves. And I'd like to congratulate you all for taking that time for yourself, because that's the most important thing you've probably done this week. And whether you take away some inspiration or you take away some information or some knowledge tonight that may or may not make a difference to you tomorrow, someday it will. And it may not have come from us. It may come from somebody at the table alongside you, someone that you may already know, or someone that you don't. We all have knowledge, it's all inside, and the answers are all there. So it is really important that we spend time, come out and spend time together. And again, I'd like to thank you for doing that. Most people ask us, well, pretty much always the question is, why are you doing this? Not how, or, that comes later. But why? So there's a couple of reasons why we're doing it. There are the main reasons, but there's reasons for those reasons. And the main reasons why we're doing this is, as Alan said, to inspire and motivate and encourage people to think more consciously about the choices they make in their life. And that's not just about the food you eat or the exercise you take, but it's also about the way you think and the way you interact with other people, how you live your life with regards to being kind and compassionate to all living beings. Most of us will say we love animals, and most of us have pets at some point in time. And for sure, when you see a little puppy or a little kitten or a little piglet, they really are very cute, and we all love them. So it's thinking consciously about what we're doing in our lifestyle with regard to the type of, perhaps, the products we use in our cleaning, in our cosmetics, and anything at all. Is this making a difference? Is it making a good difference or a bad difference to not only our lifestyle, but to others as well? And so really this run is about encouraging and inspiring people to make more conscious take more conscious thought about the choices you make in life. And that's something that we've found that we've done in the last 10 years and become more and more aware of doing it. And as we have become more aware, then our lives have become more full. And because of that, we want to share the passion that we have with others. We'd like to run around Australia so that we could certainly, as Alan said, reach more people than, just giving classes in certain areas. But also because we can. And we can because we choose to. It's a lifestyle choice that we want to be healthy enough, never have to think again whether we can do something or not. And to do that, we know that we need to eat well, to be healthy, and the only way to be optimally healthy is to only eat food that is optimally nutritious. And there's only 2 or 3 categories: fresh, ripe, organic, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Anything that's live, because we're live, vibrant beings, and if we fuel ourselves on live food, we get back that vibrancy. And the way we came to realise this was about 10 or 11 years ago when I was diagnosed with cancer. July 2001. A man in a white coat said, "You have 6 months to live." I looked at him and I said, "I want a refund." He said, "You're in denial." And I said, "I don't think so. I think it's time for me to take responsibility for my own health and do something about it." So, with a supportive family and friends, I started my 6-month journey. So it's a lifestyle choice. There's 2 choices. You either choose to live or you don't. And most people, without thinking or even consciously thinking, spend half of their lives dying. Seems such a waste to me. And when you get a diagnosis that tells you you only have 6 months to live, and you have a beautiful child like this, and I please, that you want to watch grow up and live with, what choice do you make? So you make a choice to do 100% the best you can for yourself, to make a difference to your health, or at least make a difference to the next 6 months. Within that 6 months, I spend a lot of time and a lot of effort loving myself and giving myself everything I needed to be here today. August 2001. A young man in a tweed coat with a beard, said to me, "The choice is yours, but whatever you choose to do, I'll walk with you all the way." So I made my choice that day. And the choice I made was to think consciously about everything I did in the future. And as I went through that journey of 6 months and coming out the other side being completely free of cancer and any other type of dis-ease in the body, I realized that there was something that people just don't know or are not told or are not aware of. And that is that we have the ability to take care of ourselves, to take care of others, to take care of other beings like the animals, to take care of other people who may not have the abilities that we have, and to share the information that we learn and experience with those that are coming behind us. To think more consciously about the choices we make that are going to make a difference not only to our health but to the health of the planet that we live in. This planet is our home. We can't trade it in or sell it. We can't buy another one. We have to look after it. We have to make choices that will make a difference. Eating the way we eat, 100% raw, vegan, is a lifestyle choice that is consciously made that will make a difference to our health, to the health of others, to the health of other living beings, and the health of our planet. That's just one choice. If you think consciously about every choice you make, pretty soon there's a difference in your life, and pretty soon your options are limitless. At the age of 63, I now know for sure that I can choose when I move on. There is no limit, there is no end date to my life. I'm in here for the long run. And we all are. We're all here to help each other, to help our future generations, to help the other living beings that we should be sharing this wonderful band with. That's why we're doing it. We're just out here. We're just out here running a marathon a day to gain some attention, folks. We want people to wake up and say, how do they do it? We want people to wake up and say, well, what is it that they're doing that makes a difference? We want people to think more consciously. And we want people to love, be kind and compassionate to each other and to everything. Because it's the only way that we'll all survive, and our children and our grandchildren will have something that they can inherit. February 31st, 13, sorry. I was running around Botany Bay. early in the morning, and I watch the sunrise, and I watch the birds on the water. And I saw people starting to come out of their houses and the city waking up. And I ran down through the suburbs to a little bay. And as I was running, thinking to myself, how blessed am I? A young man walked across the road and said to me, "You're fitter than I'll ever be." And I said, "I think that's because I've just run 30 consecutive marathons." And I kept running. And I ran to the end of the bay, and I turned around. And when I ran back, he waved out. So I went over, and we spent about half an hour together, along with his lovely lady friend. And within half an hour, we were good friends. And do you know what they gave to me? They gave me a hug. That was the best thing that happened all day. I'd only known them 20 minutes. That's what we're here for, folks. We're here to love ourselves, to love each other, to take care of each other, so that this planet will be here for our children and our grandchildren, and they will know a better place. Tomorrow we run from here into the city, down to the Opera House, early in the morning to meet with the media, and they're going to ask the same question. So we're going to tell them the same answers, but perhaps not quite so in such a lengthy way, but we're going to get the message out, and it's a positive message. This run is about being positive. It's about encouraging people to think positively and consciously about everything, anybody, everybody, and every place we are. We have the honour to also be in a position to fundraise for 4 charities. Those of you that have been on the website have probably read about the 4 different charities that we chose that cover the mandate of what we're trying to inspire and encourage people to think and act more consciously about. The children. It's for the children. So Kids Undercover is an incredible charity organisation that is based in Melbourne. They're also in Sydney, Brisbane and Perth, whereby they help children who don't have a cover over their heads, literally. They build them somewhere to live. Whatever the circumstances, whether they be in an overcrowded family situation, they'll build a little place where that they can have the space to do their studies, to achieve the goals that they may not otherwise be able to. We must help the children. So Kids Undercover is one of those charities. The Gawler Foundation, which is close